This is our novel pea canola trial in Yorkton. We are one of 4 sites across Saskatchewan conducting this trial. Chris Hazoffel with iHarf is leading this study, and support is coming from the province with the ADOPT program. The objective of this study is to demonstrate canola's response to increasing rates of phosphorus from a source known as Struvite, which is marketed as Crystal Green. Crystal Green is being compared either alone or in a blend relative to other common pea fertilizer formulations, such as ammonium phosphate, which is conventionally known as 1152, and MES15. The focus is to compare the establishment and seed yield between treatments.
In 2020, we were one of 4 sites, as Heather has said. The sites were Swift Current, Scott, Indian Head, and Yorkton. In 2021, the same 4 sites participated again, with additional trials being added at Melfort, Outlook, and Redvers. Now let's go back to the field and discuss the properties of Struvite and where it comes from.
Struvite is derived from wastewater. The product is 5% nitrogen, 28% P2O5, and 10% magnesium. According to promotional materials, it also has greater crop safety aspects to it as well. It's only 7.7 on the salinity index. MAP is 27 and MES15 is 21. So there's definitely some greater crop safety there. Also, according to their publications, the product releases slowly. It's not water soluble. It's released slowly in response to organic acids that are being exuded by roots. I do like the idea of taking the phosphorus out of our wastewater. It seems like a very environmentally sound thing to do. Although environmental reasons weren't what the researchers originally had. They were just trying to get the phosphorus out of the wastewater so that the struvite didn't build up around their pump and fittings. But if we can have an environmental solution that creates a agronomically good product, that's a win-win situation. So let's have a look and see what kind of results we get.
The results from this study are combined over 10 site years. Yorkton 2020 wasn't included due to missing treatments. This figure shows the main effects to different pea formulations on canola emergence. Plant emergence was significantly higher for canola receiving seed place struvite, as struvite is less toxic to germinating seed than MAP or S15. Emergence was significantly lower for canola receiving seed place S15, implying greater toxicity. Now, to be fair, S15 is also providing sulfur. While half the sulfur is in the elemental form, the other half is in the ammonium sulfate form, which is going to add toxicity to germinating seeds. However, if you combine ammonium sulfate with seed place MAP to provide the same level of S fertility as the S15, it would be even hotter on the seedlings. This is because all the added S would be in the ammonium sulfate form. So it would be better to put the extra ammonium sulfate in the sideband. However, if this is not possible and all your phosphorus and sulfur has to be seed placed, using S15 will have greater seed safety in this case. I should add that for all the treatment comparisons, nitrogen was balanced between treatments, and supplemental ammonium sulfate in the sideband, or as a broadcast application across the trials, ensured sulfur was not limiting for any treatment. If we look at the individual treatment means, you can see increasing the rate of seed place P2O5 from 25 to 65 kilograms per hectare significantly decreased canola emergence when MAP, S15, or a blend of MAP plus Crystal Green was used. The blend, by the way, was 50-50 by mass, which results in an actual P2O5 proportions of 35 to 65 from the Crystal Green and MAP. So once again, you can see the Crystal Green is pretty safe on crop emergence. Plant emergence is still above 40 plants per meter squared on average. This means yield is not being greatly reduced because of poor emergence. However, there isn't a lot of wiggle room left for some of the treatments, as you can see how further reductions by flea beetles, for example, would be problematic. Let's turn to the yield results. Here are the main effects for phosphorus formulation on canola yield. Crystal green has increased yield numerically over the no phosphorus control, but its yield is statistically lower compared to MAP and S15. Crystal green doesn't seem to be providing phosphorus to the crop as effectively as MAP or S15. University of Manitoba research found similar results and suggested the lower solubility of struvite in high pH soil may be the reason. In contrast, research by Katanda et al. In 2016 with wheat and canola found phosphorus use efficiencies from using struvite could match or exceed MAP. Growth chamber work by Jeff Shano at the University of Saskatchewan also found favorable results with struvite. This does not seem to be the case in our study. However, the blend of MAP and crystal green seems to have restored yield potential. S15 is purported to have better P availability due to more feeding sites than MAP. In other words, more granules per foot of row containing phosphorus. The sulfur contained in each granule is also supposed to be reducing pH and helping to keep the phosphorus available. While S15 is numerically higher yielding in this study, the difference is not impressive or statistically significant. On another note, keep in mind that half the sulfur is elemental with S15 and may not be readily available in the year of application. This could result in sulfur shortages on land that is very low in sulfur. When looking at the individual treatments, the canola crop again looks less responsive to crystal green when it's applied alone. So how did this all work out economically? In this table, Chris has determined the price per kilogram of P2O5 from the different sources of phosphorus. To do this, he has subtracted the cost of nitrogen and sulfur for the various treatments. He has determined the costs for the different rates of phosphorus for each product. He subtracted these values from the gross revenue to determine the marginal profits per hectare. Fertilizer costs and prices for canola were based on retail quotes from February 3rd, 2022. When using MAP or S15, 45 kilograms of P2O5 per hectare was most profitable. To convert, multiply kilograms per hectare by 0.9 to determine the pounds per acre. Highest returns for the blend were actually at 65 kilograms of P2O5 per hectare. But take that with a grain of salt. If you compare against the zero phosphorus control, the profitability actually went down before maxing out at 65 kilograms per hectare. For the crystal green alone, adding no phosphorus was most profitable. From these results, the use of struvite is a hard sell. It is expensive and doesn't seem as readily available as ammonium phosphate. However, the goal with phosphorus fertility should be to build soil phosphorus up to about 15 parts per million. Yields can only be maximized if soil levels are maintained. On the off chance you haven't seen this old but classic study, here is wheat yield response to added phosphorus on soils with different levels of background phosphorus. It's not possible to place enough phosphorus on a soil testing 5 parts per million to match the yield from a soil testing 15 parts per million. This is because plants obtain a substantial portion of their P requirement from the entire soil volume that they occupy. In other words, crops respond to both P fertilizer and background P fertility. Perhaps struvite has a place in a blend to increase soil P without risking seed safety, particularly if the price of struvite would come down. Conclusions. Risk of seedling injury from seed place fertilizer is highest with S15 and lowest with struvite. Canola yield was less responsive to struvite though, compared to MAP or S15. Struvite, particularly on low phosphorus soils with high pH, may not release quickly enough in the year of application to meet crop needs, though there is some disagreement with this in the literature. Jeff Shano's growth chamber study comes to mind, for example. Struvite was less economical compared to MAP or S15. Perhaps extra struvite could be added to seed place MAP to help build up soil phosphorus levels without reducing crop emergence. However, side banding extra MAP would also achieve the same goal. I'd like to acknowledge the ADOPT program for funding this study.